Coming up on this episode of Together for Good, I'm talking with Josh Ehlers. He's the accountant here at Bethany. He is a young man with a lot of talents and a lot of abilities. And I want to know, why are you still here, Josh? Why do you keep coming to church? Why does this fit with you? Should be fun. Here we go. Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good. Hey, Josh, welcome to the Bethany Podcast Studio.
Thank you for having me.
Have you ever been in this room before?
Just setting it up.
Josh built the podcast studio. We're really grateful for that. He's done a great job with it. But you've never been on the podcast.
Never been on it.
So long-time listener, first-time caller, basically.
Yeah, I always listen in my car.
That's what you can listen in your car. You can find stuff on Apple AirPlay. We got an app for that.
We got an app for everything now.
We do have an app for everything now. But I've had this idea for this new series of interviews that I want to do with people. I feel like the church is constantly doing research and studies and reports about why people are leaving the church. And I don't feel like there's a lot of conversation about why people still choose to come to church. And you're the perfect demographic because, go ahead, are you willing to state how old you are, or at least the generation that you ascribe to?
Just say how old I am.
Okay.
I'm 28, the last year of millennials.
Oh, you're last year millennials? Dang it, I might need to kick you out then. I was really hoping for a Gen Z person.
Sorry, 1996.
Okay.
My brother's Gen Z.
But you were born after Jurassic Park. Like that's my marker in the sand. 1994, good year for film. But people of your age, often young adults, are not a population that's often in church, connected with church. Obviously, if I was to really ask you the question right away, why are you still here? You would say, I work at a church, Nate.
Yeah.
However, that's not really the full story because you were attending Bethany long before we hired you.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay. Yeah. We're going to get to that, but let's start at the beginning. Help people a little bit about who you are, where you come from. And I do want to hear about growing up, your connection with church, because I think that plays a key part in this.
Yeah, I grew up in a very small town in Ohio, very rural area of Ohio. Yeah, don't remember a time growing up that I didn't go to church.
Okay.
My dad would get us up, my brother and I, up really early in the morning. Not early. It was early for us because we were young. My church had a sister church. So we rotated service. We alternated like early and late service. So whichever service you had, Sunday school the opposite. So if you had the 9 a.m. service, Sunday school followed right after it, or vice versa.
And this changed each week?
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare to keep track of, but you were good for it.
It's just how we grew up. They mailed a church calendar.
Uh-huh.
So it was on the fridge growing up. The church calendar.
They didn't have an app back then?
No apps. You're asking too much of the rural church in Ohio. And my dad would get us up and we'd go to Sunday school, and we just grew up going to Sunday school. And then after Sunday school, you went to church, or you went to church before Sunday school.
Wow. So you were an every week kind of person.
Yeah. Until about like high school.
Okay.
Like after confirmation.
Then you were given sort of the choice. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
My dad would still yell up at, hey, time for church. I'd act like I didn't hear him and fall back asleep.
Nice.
I don't know. I feel like high school is always around that age that you start trying to figure things out on your own.
So is that what you were doing, or were you just tired and didn't want to go?
I don't know. Maybe tired. Like it was something you did for the last, over 10 years. So I don't feel like going.
Yeah.
Also, my confirmation class was 3 people.
Okay.
And then after we got confirmed, one of them dropped out. So it was just 2 of us.
Uh-huh.
So there wasn't a ton of people our age anymore to interact with. It was just the 2 of us all the time. So like we'd show up for Sunday school. And I actually remember like looking forward to that.
Uh-huh.
Because there was a group ahead of us that was massive and super close. And they always got together same hour, same time. And it's like the
cool older kids.
Yeah, the older kids, the cool class. Like you're up in the fellowship hall and not down in the basement anymore kind of thing. And then after it got confirmed, there was only 2 of us.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know. Didn't really feel like going.
There wasn't a big pull for you there.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing in that too is that the real pull all along was like this communal sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's twofold, because it's the communal piece of this is just what my family does. That's an element of community there. But then there's the later on, it's like, I want to see my friends. There's only one other person. And did you even like that person?
Yeah. We're actually super close.
Good. All right, good.
Yeah. Went to his wedding. Yeah. We're really close.
Did you want to give him a shout out? What's his name?
CJ, what's up?
Shout out CJ. But yeah, and then when you don't have that sense of community, there wasn't a lot about church itself, the practice of worship that was actually meaningful or significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
I will say that during high school, I was super close to my grandparents as well. Very religious.
Your grandparents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they couldn't, as they got older, if they couldn't make it to church, they would watch a different church on their, like on TV, like a different pastor. They'd watch them live. Had all the book, like every time I went over, like their advice always got followed by scripture.
Wow. I should start doing that.
I'd go over, and the Sundays that they went and I wasn't there, I always heard about it.
Okay.
And I'm like, where were we at this morning?
Wow. Because did you do Sunday night dinner at Grandma and Grandpa's kind of thing?
No, it was just like, I just always went over there.
Gotcha.
During high school, just like progressively got more and more. I would always just go over. And
so what would you say to them? Like when they called you out like that, it sounds like they were very kind, very Midwestern. Yeah. And yet that's as brutal as the Midwest gets a lot of the time. Is just, hey, we missed you. Yeah,
exactly. I was tired. Didn't feel like going. And then next week would roll around. I'm like, oh shoot, I have to go this one.
Yeah, you can't miss 2 in a row.
I can't miss 2 in a row. Yeah, I don't know. And then college came. I moved away. I didn't find a church when I first moved away.
Where'd you go to college?
So I started at a college in Dayton for a semester. Didn't find a church down there. I moved back home for a year and a half. And then at that point, I was still going to my home church. And then when I went to finish my undergrad, I moved to another town, Bluffton, Ohio. Shout out. Bluffton University. And then ended up going to a church there. Except, funny enough, it was the same name. Like my church back home, St. Mark's Lutheran Church. This church was also Mark's Lutheran.
Why did you? So this is what I want to drill in on too. So you're off at college. Yeah. Your grandparents aren't gonna see you at Sunday night dinner and politely shame you, and yet you decided as a college student to find a church. Why? That's not how normal college students think.
Yeah. I was looking for community, thinking back to some of the other podcasts you've done. I think it was still part of me. It was still a ritual that I wanted to hold on to in a way.
Okay.
The college Bluffton was also we had chapel, like on campus chapel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So very religious school as well. I think it was a Mennonite backing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So still very religious school. And so I was going to chapel. So I still had that feeling of faith. And I think for me, it was like, I want to make it my own. So I wanted to go off campus and go find, I don't know, like a church home, away from home kind of thing. And looking for community. The only downside was I walked in and there weren't too many kids my age there.
And you didn't go with anyone from school. You just did this all on your own.
Yeah.
Your roommates, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to church.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
And growing up, we had like church attire.
Yeah.
Except back home, it was shirt and tie. So I took my shirt and ties to college.
For church.
To put them on for Sunday church.
That's awesome.
So it was kind of like, it was really normal for me.
Yeah.
But people would see me like walking across campus going like, where's this dude coming from? Like Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, because they were just getting home from the club. Wrong college town.
Yeah, wrong college town. Yeah,
okay.
We had one bar and it wasn't open late.
Okay.
So no clubbing.
But you knew I was going to be asking you these questions. I gave Josh a long time of heads up for this conversation. And
2 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
what do you think it was? You said it a little bit, making your faith your own, the ritual of it, even down to the shirt and tie. Why was that meaningful to you? Because in the same sense too, I'm guessing there's a lot of rituals or things that you grew up with that you also didn't feel a need to preserve or keep doing.
Yeah. Man, you're asking deep questions.
I know.
But I would say like when I transferred to finish my undergrad,
Yeah.
there was some like feeling lost. So
Okay.
it's continuing going to find like hope or direction. Yeah.
Okay. No, I appreciate you saying that. I think that's a really key piece of hearing to your college story. And I know a little bit more about it because we've talked offline. You were bouncing around trying to figure out what to do with your life.
Yep.
And that's why college was these like 3 locations for you.
Yeah.
Was it 3 or 4? 3, 4? Nice.
Yeah, 4.
Okay. And so there was a part of it too that's I should probably, because your grandma or grandpa quoted some scripture at you that talked about, faith can move mountains, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why you end up there. And then you graduate, you get a master's degree, same place?
No.
Give us a little more detail. Yeah.
So after undergrad, transferred again. The profession I wanted to go into, like, just didn't work out. So
What was it?
I wanted to be a financial advisor.
Oh.
So the company I wanted to work for, I was very particular about like how I wanted.
You? You in particular? Oh my gosh. All right. Sorry, keep going.
Just a tad. I didn't want to work for like any company that would force me to sell something like I didn't believe in.
Oh,
So
I respect that. Yeah.
and one company had not free range, but like you could dictate like how you wanted to approach clients. It just didn't work out with that company, and I couldn't find one that I wanted to get back into. So then a professor was like, hey, you should just try to get the scholarship, go to grad school by yourself a year.
Yeah.
It was a 10-month program. So I was like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
Found out really quickly after like middle of the first semester that I didn't really want to be in a master of accountancy class. I was just floating my way through, not really in love with it.
But it was just for lack of something better to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I found, I think that was the one time I didn't have a church.
Okay. Because where was this? This wasn't your hometown. This wasn't your college town.
This was in about 20, 30 minutes north of Bluffton. So it was in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Okay.
BGSU, shout out.
You're just like, you're catching all the really cool Ohio towns here.
I am.
Yeah.
Nothing made, not Columbus,
Not
Cleveland.
Cincinnati,
No.
not Cleveland,
No.
not even Toledo.
No, just, hey, that's a rival. Up I-75. Went to,
Have you watched AP Bio?
No.
It's on Netflix. It's okay, but it takes place in Toledo, and like most of the show is just a running joke about Toledo.
that's fair.
Yeah.
I did work in Toledo.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the one time I didn't have, I was in school for a semester and then the pandemic hit. So that's why I didn't have a church home.
There you go. That makes it difficult. And then,
Actually, I lied. I did go to a church for a little bit there. I lied. I just remembered. I didn't go often because of the pandemic in that first semester, but I did go to a church for a few times.
because you were still trying to figure out
Yeah.
what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
And then,
Still wore the shirt and tie.
I don't think you've ever worn a shirt and tie out here. No, you probably have.
I have.
You did when you first arrived. Yeah. So you end up out here.
Yeah.
You after you get the master's,
I get the master's,
move out here.
got a job as an underwriter at a bank. Did not like life much. My roommate, who is one of my friends from junior high,
Not CJ.
not CJ, sorry CJ, his name's Nick. His sister lived out here in Denver, and
Okay.
she had recently got married and moved in with her husband, and texted Nick and asked if him and I would want to rent out her house. At the time, I was like at a very low point because I was working at the bank,
Not loving it.
not loving it, then going to the gym, going home, and repeating it 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And just wasn't for me. Like something was off. I was like, I needed to change the scenery. The cornfields were getting old. So we jumped on the opportunity. I think she texted us in July or August, maybe beginning of August. And we moved out September 9th.
Like a month later.
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. And you started coming to church here
Yeah.
not long after.
It would have been after Thanksgiving of 2022.
Okay.
Because I didn't know the church existed. And Nick's sister just lives in the backyard of the church.
Gotcha.
So on the way home, I saw the sign. And then I think the next Sunday I was like, oh, I'm going to check out this church. So I went online, pulled up a live stream.
And it wasn't that bad.
It was all right.
Josh is really particular about our live stream as well.
No, I'm not. Just maybe a little bit. So I think for a few Sundays I watched the live stream before I actually came. And then I came, realized how big the church was on the first visit.
Especially compared to your small town churches in Ohio, I'm sure. Yeah.
One pew section is the size of my church back home, but you just cut the pews in half. So, yeah, and I think I came for a few Sundays, just snuck in the back.
Yep.
And then bolted after the blessing.
Yep.
And then I think it was like a year had gone by, still like really dark in life. And that's when I reached out to you. Yeah. And we talked for a little bit.
I got to know you a little bit. We started chatting not too long after you got here. I was kind of like keeping tabs on you a little bit. But then, you reached out to me because you weren't working as a bank underwriter. No. You moved up and had a job as, what were you?
So I couldn't find a job in accounting right away. So I worked at Lululemon. So if you see me, I will likely be wearing Lululemon.
Likes nice things, dresses up for church. Were you wearing Lululemon back home?
No.
No, okay.
It's only because I worked there.
Yeah.
It was a steep discount. Worked there for a while. And then I think when we started talking, I was working as a staff accountant at UC Health.
And you did not like that job.
Yeah, that was also going the same route the underwriting job was going. And so I think fast forwarding, it was like around Lent.
Yeah.
And I just, over the weekend one time, decided that I was going to quit.
Uh-huh.
And so I came Wednesday night to sit through just a Wednesday service.
Uh-huh.
And I'm fully prepared to quit my job the next day.
Uh-huh.
And then service gets over. Gary comes and sits next to me.
Uh-huh.
He goes, hey, you're in business, right? I was like, yeah, I'm an accountant. He's like, would you want to be our accountant? I was like, I don't know, maybe. And he's let me send you an email and I'll get a conversation with our current accountants, see if it'll work out.
And here we are.
And here we are. Yeah.
It's such a cool story.
Yeah.
But let's go back through some of those details though, because you are miserable at your job. Like you make these big dramatic life changes, but it also seems like all along the way, you're not finding what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is really where church fit in for you there. It's like you didn't know, and it doesn't sound like you were finding the answer at church necessarily, but it was just the place to ask the question. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Like that is, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I hate my job, but like, I'm just going to show up and go through these familiar rituals, dress up nice, my Lululemon.
I didn't have the Lulu yet. Just shirt and tie.
Dress up in my shirt and tie and sit through the service, but it'll be familiar, right? Like you grew up Lutheran, you keep finding these Lutheran churches. And so there's things probably along the way that just feel similar, even if it's different. And you're expecting to hear a message of hope or to hear encouragement or to get direction. Do you think that was underlying a lot of your continual participation, not just here, but throughout young adulthood?
Yeah, I think I was hoping to hear something, like,
yeah,
at least in the message for that day.
Do you think you ever did?
No, I don't. I
appreciate the honesty. Yeah.
No, like when it was really dark, I just remember, and I'll say it was really dark because within 18 months before I moved out here, I lost both my grandparents.
Yeah.
So I think I kept coming to be closer to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, most of the time, I will say there were a couple messages that kind of hit close to home, and I remember going out to my car to cry.
Yeah.
So I think I was more or less like coming to be closer to them and hoping something would click to give me some type of direction. But I don't think it was until Gary sat next to me and asked me to be the accountant that I actually was like, oh, here's a sign from God.
Wow. And do you, maybe you shouldn't answer this question. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I do. With sincerity, yes, I do. But I think for me, it's been all like, I have not been just an accountant here. Like,
Yeah.
You
have so many gifts and so many talents, and it's been really fun to see. That's one of the things I love about church too, is it's always so multifaceted, right? There's just so much to it. And so you get to do cool tech stuff when you have a little extra time because hey, Josh, help us with this.
So that's been nice. Like, it hasn't been just come in,
just do the numbers
and go home.
Yeah.
Which was the last 2 jobs, and that was no fun.
Yeah.
So this gives me variety. I think I've probably filled up my plate too much with the extra stuff and not enough accounting, but yeah, no, I still feel that way.
Yeah. You're hopefully listening to some of the podcasts about like rest and things like that.
No, we're training for a marathon right now. There is no rest.
That's right. Josh is a big time runner. He ran his first marathon in Austin. Was that in December?
February.
I knew it was winter month. And then your next one is, go ahead.
November 8th, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Awesome. Back to the Midwest.
Yep. Back to sea level.
What's your goal? Go ahead. You can say your time from the first one.
Austin, Texas was 3 hours, 14 minutes.
So are you trying to get sub 3?
Yeah. So we're trying to Boston qualify for Indy.
Very cool.
So 2:57.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Best of luck.
Thank you.
It's cool. This is a cool thing about you, Josh, is that you're such a driven person. And I see that as a part of your story and all this too, is that you want to know what's next always. And you need that next goal, that next marathon, that next project. And it feels like a lot of the times along the way, when things get stagnant, you get antsy.
Yeah.
And yet somewhere through all of this, what's like ironic is that you kept going to church through all of this in all these different places. And you even admitted it wasn't that poignant. You didn't actually find what you were looking for. But it was the stagnancy of church that also like sustained you, even though you hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about, there was one line my grandma always told me.
Okay.
And so every time I went, I was stagnant, but this line always kept replaying in my head. And I don't know if it was a verse that she picked up on or if this was just like her own saying, but what was it? You worship with your mouth, but your heart is far from me. And so
she would say that to you a lot.
Yeah.
Like when you didn't go to church on Sunday?
I don't even remember the context. I just remember she would always say that to me. And
it's like some fire and brimstone stuff there.
It is a little bit. But so then I would go and I would be like, I think about that. I'm like, so I have to be somewhat present. I can't just go through the motion of coming in, saying the creed, and then leave. Take communion and leave. So I was like, I got to be in it. I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the best routine now. Like, I don't have that morning routine of waking up and reading the Bible.
And that's okay. I hope you listen to the full episode and not just the first part of it. Yeah, I know what you're referencing there. But with this too, you're also a person who just loves like pushing yourself.
Yeah.
Like you, all the weightlifting stuff I know you're doing, training for a marathon. Like I said already, you're always the person looking for what's next. And you were engaging this faith all along because you felt like you needed something. And you were doing it really intentionally because you had your grandmother's guilt kind of hiding behind all of it, it sounds.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Parents too, maybe a little bit.
And it's also not, I don't want to like portray all this as this fairy tale ending. Oh, and you got hired as a job at the church and now life is complete. Because I'm guessing you still feel antsy and wonder like what's next. Yeah. And have dark moments too where you're sad or still grieving your grandparents or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna lie. There is like a lot of what next
thoughts. What's that about?
No clue.
Okay.
No clue. I've never even thought about it until you said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't sit. I guess I have to know what's next.
Yeah.
And
You have to have a goal. You have to have a carrot.
when I was younger or towards graduating high school, I had planned out like 5-10 years.
I bet you did.
Like I had, but the plan didn't really work out. I think that's when I started like rethinking life a little bit, but I still can't be satisfied with being content where I'm at kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. You might want to think about that.
We're going to have another episode.
We'll have a 1-year check-in and find out where you're at. And yeah, I don't know. I love your story too. I'm just investigating this question. Like, why are people still here? Why are you keep coming to church? And what's fascinating is that you can't even really say. You don't even really know, but you just kept getting drawn back to it. And it's one part guilt, and it's one part routine and ritual, and it's one part this like deep longing for some resolution, underscoring all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a good, clear answer.
Good. I don't think there probably is one a lot of the time. Here's my last question.
Okay.
What do people say when you tell them you work at a church? Because you have to lead with that now sometimes, I'm sure. Meeting new friends, going on dates. Hey, what do you do? Yeah, I'm an accountant. Oh, cool. Where? Bethany Lutheran Church. And again, because for young adults, that's not a typical answer to that question.
I run with a group on Wednesday nights at a track.
There you go.
And I told them, and it was the first time that I was ever like questioning, do I say where I work? Do I say I work at a church?
Why? What was it going through your head? They're all going to think I'm weird.
I didn't think it was going to be perceived well.
Yeah.
And I thought that they were going to make
A lot of assumptions about
Yeah.
you. Totally get it. I feel the same way.
not to get political, but I think there's like certain connotations with
Yeah.
there isn't the separation of church and state as much as we want there to be. And I think when you say you work at a church, they will make their own assumption of even your like political viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is crazy.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, do I say I work at a church? I was like, and then I tried to avoid it. I remember trying to avoid it. I was like, I'm an accountant, and then try to like change the subject really quickly. And then someone said, where? And I was like, at a church. And
then there's like the record scratch.
yeah. And then like, surprisingly enough, someone asked like, where? And I said, here. And then they started asking me like more questions about the church, and they were looking for a church. And I was like, oh, that went better then.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've had to say it. And I'm still nervous to probably just say I work at a church.
Yeah, just because of the assumptions that come with it.
Yeah.
And it's, even though, again, like you've been doing this for a really long time, and you know that it's something very different than these assumptions that you're speculating people will have. And yet that doesn't change the scenario. I think that's a big piece why, too, a lot of folks are afraid or leery of the church is just because they assume it's one very particular thing. But if they had heard that it's like this place that's really deeply connects you with your grandparents who are no longer with us, and that it's been this place of like constant presence and routine that's been very comforting during difficult times, and it's been a place at least where you are hoping to hear something to help guide your life. Like that all sounds really good and like what people would want to sign up for.
Yeah.
Except it's a church.
Yeah. It's been crazy like growing up and continuing and going.
Yeah.
And like just seeing like every place you go, oh, there's no one my age here. There are very few people my age here. You don't bring up church when you're out at the bar and, hey, hi. You strike up a conversation. Oh, you go to church too?
Yeah.
Not the first thing you bring up in a new conversation.
Maybe we should. Let's try it.
We should. We'll go to the like a Rockies game and just sit there and, hey, you go to church?
See what happens.
Yeah, we could.
The new evangelism efforts brought to you by accountant Josh Ehlers.
Together for good.
Together for good. All right, Josh, anything you want to close with or words of advice or wisdom for our listeners? Final thoughts. I know I didn't tell you that this is coming.
Yeah, you didn't.
Put you on the spot. Josh, why are you still here?
For hope.
For hope.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Josh, thanks for coming on. Thanks for building the podcast studio.
You're welcome.
It's also really nice. And all the other odd jobs that you have around here. Dear listener, I hope you enjoyed. I just realized I left my day camp button on for the whole video. So that's what that's about. I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Josh. Thanks for listening. As always, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.